In this video, we're going to look at how to design the handle for our garden trowel project. Now, the handle needs to fit over the stem, so there are some requirements we have to take into consideration. This video is going to look at how to design using the requirements for both the stem and the anthropometric data we collected in class, and how we're going to use the revolve tool, which is a tool we haven't yet used properly, to create this rotationally symmetrical part. And we need to consider the fact that this is rotationally symmetrical because we're going to be turning this on a lathe. So we're going to start with a new part, and as always we're going to save our part first. I've got my Garden Trowel folder open here in my accessibilities, and I'm going to call this part handle. Press save, and it appears there, and I'm going to close down this window. Maximizes my work area on here. So I'm going to start with a new sketch, and I'm going to sketch on the front plane, and I'm going to start off with a line, but instantly I'm going to go with a center line, and this is going to give me a center line to work from, nice and big. It doesn't matter how big, it's a center line. And then we're going to go over to the rectangle tool, and from anywhere, it doesn't matter, we can start to draw a rectangle. Now, with our anthropometric data, one of the measurements we got was hand length, and the maximum value we said was 107 millimeters that we're going to work with. That 107 millimeters was the circumference of the handle at its widest diameter. We need to convert that circumference down to its radius or its diameter. The calculation for circumference is 2 pi r or pi d, so pi times the diameter. So if we divide the circumference by pi, so 107 divided by pi, we get approximately 34. So I'm going to stick with 34 as my height measurement. I'm going to dimension my length, and my length dimension is dictated by our stem length. Now we can extend this if we need to, but the length of the stem only allows for around about 115 millimeters of handle length. So we're going to work with that for now. If our designs need to be extended for comfort and ergonomics, we can extend the length of the stem. So I've got my dimension part there. I'm also going to dimension from my center line to my top part here. And as we should recall from last time we dimensioned with center lines, the dimension's coming out different to my total height, and that's because it dimensions to the center line as if it's a radius. So we want the diameter to be the same as the height, so 34. And then we can start designing. Now the first thing I'm going to do is actually trim away the bottom half of this design. We don't need it. And that will become apparent why soon. And I'm going to jump straight over to the Fit Point Spline tool. Now if I zoom in a little bit, I'm going to start with my spline tool to create the curves for my handle. And I'm going to assume that this is going to be my front and this is going to be the back, and this could change. And right now I'm just experimenting, so I'm going to start here and I'm going to come down there, and I'm just going to produce a smooth flowing handle design. It's important to remember that we don't really want to come much higher than here, so if we start coming up to this line, the next curve will get higher. So I'll demonstrate here, and it brings the curve round, and you can see that it's actually got higher above that node. So I'm going to bring it back down again here and raise it up at the back, just because I know that my personal preference is to have a small little hook in this area here for my little finger to grip into. I like a raised edge at the front here for my thumb to grip into. That's my preference. You may have a very different preference. I'm now going to go over to the fillet tool. With the fillet tool, I'm going to click on this one, click on this one. Oh, it clicked off of it, my mistake. Oh, it's not liking that, is it? There we go, it's allowed it that time. So I had to get closer, and you can see here from my first line, it went above my initial line. So I'm going to go for a 5mm radius. And I'm happy with that. What I'm going to do, because this line is above my initial line, I'm going to drag that down to the line. That means that I'm not going above my initial 34mm diameter. I'm going to do another radius over here. From this one to this one. Oh, it didn't like that, did it? Let's try that again. So from this one to this one, there we go, it worked that time. I don't know what went wrong there, I may have clicked something by accident. And this is at a 3mm radius, and it looks quite nice. If I compare it to the front one, it's still lower. I'm going to see what a 5mm radius looks like. And for me, I think the 5mm radius might be a little bit too much. 4 looks like somewhere I might be happy with. 4 or 3.5. Yeah, 3.5 looks good, we'll go with that. So I'll press enter on that, and I've got my nice solid shape here. I'm still going to trim away this top part here. We don't need that. That's gone with now. And I'm left with this. I haven't got a line across the bottom, and that's deliberate because it's not actually needed in this scenario. If you're in the habit of putting the line across the bottom just for good practice, by all means please do so. But I'll demonstrate that it's not actually needed in this scenario. I'll finish my sketch, and I'm going to go over to the revolve tool. Now, this is where we can revolve a shape. It's going to be rotationally symmetrical. I'll press revolve, and sometimes this will do it automatically if you've got it selected. In this case it hasn't, which I'm quite happy about because it means I can show you what to do if yours doesn't automatically select. So I can select my profile, and it's automatically selected that attached to that profile sketch is an axis, and it's selected my axis here and revolved it instantly for me. And I can just press OK. We can use this tool in other scenarios where we only revolve part way or a certain degree, but for this scenario we want all the way around. Now I need to put a hole in here for it to attach to our stem. So I press my hole tool, click on that surface. Be careful not to have this over here, as it will make referencing difficult. So make sure you always pull it towards the center. I'm not going to have it on the center just so I can show you the referencing. I'm going to set up my diameter 8mm, so down here 8mm, and my distance is all the way through. And then I'm going to go to my references, and because it's cylindrical, I've only got a reference once, and it snaps to the center of it. And that can be then pressed OK, and I have a hole going all the way through, and that looks quite nice. You see the hole going through there. The next thing we're going to do is add a little bit of customization to it. We've already put a nice shape into it, but now we're going to put some small grooves in. So some people like to have little grooves in their handles, maybe near the top for extra grip on the thumb, or maybe down around near the base here, near the little finger or the bottom for grip in other areas. So we're going to do a couple of small grooves around here. To do that, I'm going to look at the front plane using my directional block at the top here. I am going to do a new sketch, and I can select my front plane here, and I want to do a small little section in here. So to do that, first off, I need to copy this line. Now sometimes it'll let you copy the line, sometimes it won't. We'll see if it'll let us this time. I've selected that line, go to offset, and it's deselecting it, so it's not liking it because it's a rotational extrusion. So instead I'm going to open up my sketches, and I'm going to make sketch 1 visible, and that gives me my node points for that spline line I created. I'm now going to create a new spline, and I'm going to snap to those spline points. It won't be perfect, but it'll be pretty close, and that's good enough for what I want. And I'm just going to finish that, and I can move some of these lines around, or I can play around with some of these points here. And I'm going to quickly do that now because I want this blue line to be slightly higher than the body I'm working with. Not too high, but slightly. That's fine there. Over here for this node, I might drag it a bit. If I zoom in, closer I zoom in, the easier and more accurately I can drag it. And I can change the angle that it's working at here. Oh, when it wants to move. Sometimes it has a little bit of a get upset about that moment. There we go, that's looking good, and I'll leave it there. Importantly, my line is above that. So I'm now going to use either the rectangle tool or the line tool, your choice. I'm going to start with the line tool. I'm going to put a couple of grooves in here. Oh, before I do that though, I need to copy this line. So I want to make an echo of this line or a contour just below it. So I'll select the line and go to the offset tool, and it's offsetting it 1mm down. If yours is above, you can use the flip button to change the direction of it. So 1mm looks good. I might go 1.5, just a little bit deeper. If you are doing anything on these sections here, the narrow sections, be careful that you don't go too far. So we've got our center line here, and our hole is 8mm, so 4mm radius, and you want to leave a healthy amount of space so you don't weaken the handle too much. So now I can use my line tool, and making sure that all of my lines come above the main body here, I'm going to do some straight lines up, and I'm going to come across as well, and I'll maybe come across 1.6mm looks good, and back down to that line. And I'll do another one here, and these haven't got to be overly accurate, and this is entirely down to preference. So if you want to make them wider or narrower, if you would like some really narrow ones like that, that's absolutely fine. And I've got them there. So I'll do 2 for now, but you might want to add more to yours. And what I'm going to do is I am going to use my revolve tool again, but I'm going to select my sketches. Now this is happening on mine, I've noticed this before, where I've selected one, it's not allowing me to select another one. It seems to have trouble with this. Even when I go to select, I can't select more. So instead, I'm going to select these sections first. And again, I'm having trouble selecting these. So what I might do is make the body invisible so that I can select them. Hold shift to select multiple, and I'm going to select the parts above just in case. I can now make the body visible again and go to my revolve tool, and there we go. Highlighted in red are my cuts, and that's the important bit there. They're highlighted in red. I can press OK, and they've cut away, and they add a little bit of style, a little bit of panache to it, and they can be functional with regards to grip or even sweat runoff if you're using the handle for a long period of time. You can get fancy and add spiraled cuts to this, but that's a lot more complicated and not something we're going to do here. I'm also going to make this sketch invisible again. So these visibility tools are here on that parts tree. The last thing I need to do is add an appearance. So if I press A, I can scroll down to the woods, and I'm going to go to pine because softwood pine is what we're going to be making our parts out of. I'm not going to press OK yet because I don't know if I'm happy with that appearance. Now you could look for different types of softwoods, or you can right click on the appearance and press edit, and you can adjust the scale to give it a bit more of a natural scale, a bit more of a natural appearance. And there we go, that looks a little bit better. So I can close that off now, and that's done. That is our part. I'm going to save this. Now we've got some nice milestone, and that's saved. For your work, you need to produce a range of handles so that we can test them and see how they work. I'm now going to show you how that we're going to be able to test them and collate them together. So I'm going to create a drawing from this, create new template from scratch, and okay. Making sure the template size was set to A3, that was important. Now, we want a scale of 1 to 1 on here. When it catches up. There we go. And I can place that anywhere on the screen. Okay, doesn't matter. I'm going to delete my outside border and my text block. And then I'm good to go. I can now, because I'm using the full version of this, I've got the option to export this as a PDF straight away. If you're using the web-based version of this, you won't be able to do that. So if you're using the full version of this, you can just go ahead and export that PDF, save it somewhere, and we can use that in a later session. If you can't do that, do the drawing like this, save it in that, make sure you save it in that Garden Trowel folder so we can find it, and call this drawing 1, or you might even call it drawing design 1, because you're going to produce a range of these designs and we don't want to get confused with any later drawings we do. Press save, and once this is uploaded, and if you're on the web-based version it will upload instantly, you can then go up to your access your online storage. To do that, in your data panel here, you can press this open on the web button, and that opens up your work. Oh, it's decided to jump back. That opens up your work in the web browser, but not to work on, but to view. And you can do a range of different things with this. So if I go into my Garden Trowel folder here, I should be able to find Handle Drawing Design 1. I can click on that and view it, and it gives me the option here to download it or export it. I can export it as a PDF, and we can work with that. So if I export it as a PDF, what happens, I'll get this notice here saying it's being exported in the PDF format, and you'll get emailed a link. And the email will only be valid for 7 days, so do access it relatively soon, as soon as you get it, and download that straight away. Click on the link in the email and download that. I want to put it out there. Make sure you only download from email links that you trust. I trust the work from Autodesk and from Fusion. Don't download random email links unless you know where they're coming from. Okay. Once you've done that, we can use it in a future session to create the handle profiles that we're going to test using 2D design and laser cutting. Right. Good luck.